You have cleaned that toilet 4 times this month. You have a bottle for it under the sink, maybe 2 bottles, maybe 3. You have knelt down on that hard floor with a brush in your hand and scrubbed until your shoulder ached and the brown ring at the water line is still there. It is there right now while you are listening to me. You can picture it without even getting up. And maybe you have done what so many have done and quietly stopped letting company use that bathroom, the little one off the hallway, because you are ashamed of a stain you cannot scrub out no matter how hard you work at it. I want to say something to you straight off, and it may set your jaw a little. That stain is not your fault. You did not clean it wrong. You did not let it go too long. You were handed a brush and a bottle to fight a thing that no brush and no bottle can ever win against. And the people who sold you that brush and that bottle knew it, or the people who taught them did. My name is Elias Yoder. I am Amish, and I keep a farm here in Lancaster County that my grandfather built with his own 2 hands. And in this house we have never bought a bottle of toilet cleaner. Not one. Not ever. And the bowls in this house are white. White the way they were the day they were set in place, with no ring, no rust, no brown creeping up the sides. My wife Esther cleans them twice a year. Twice. Not twice a week the way most folks feel they must. Twice a year. And it costs about $2 to do it. I want to tell you how. I want to tell you what my mother kept on the shelf by the wash basin, and what her mother kept before her, and what the women in our community still keep in the pantry to this very day. And I'm going to tell you the part that ought to make you a little angry, which is that none of this is hidden. None of it. It is sitting on the shelf in your hardware store this very minute, under a different name, for $2. The only thing anyone ever did was stop telling you to look for it. The first thing you have to understand before anything else will make sense is that the stain in your bowl is lying to you about what it even is. You look at that brown ring and your mind says one word: dirty, filth, something that did not get cleaned. Something you let happen, and that word brings shame with it, and the shame is what sends you back to the store for a stronger bottle. That is the whole machine right there. It runs on one wrong idea planted in your head, and it runs very well. But it is not dirt. I need you to truly hear that. You cannot scrub it away, because it was never sitting on top of the porcelain the way mud sits on a boot. It is mineral. It is the water itself, leaving a little piece of itself behind, day after day, month after month, year after year, until it has grown a thin shell of stone right onto the glaze of your bowl. A stain like that is not lying on the surface. It has become part of the surface. There are 3 kinds of it mostly, and it helps to know them. The chalky white and gray buildup, that is, the hardness in your water. The lime, the very same stuff that crusts up the inside of your tea kettle. The rusty brown, that is iron coming up out of your pipes or your well, meeting the air and turning the color of an old nail left out in the rain. And the dark ring, the near black one that some poor folks fight and never win. That is manganese, another mineral that rides along in certain water. 3 different colors, 3 different minerals, but all 3 are the same in the way that matters most. They are stone, locked hard onto the glaze, and you cannot scrub stone off with a brush. You can only wear out your arm trying. And here is the cruel turn in it, the part nobody tells you. While you scrub, you are scratching the glaze. That hard, glassy white finish on your bowl is smooth as ice when it is new, and every hard scrubbing, every gritty powder, every stiff brush is grinding tiny scratches into it. You cannot see them with your eye, but every one of those scratches is a brand new little crack for the next bit of mineral to catch and hold in. So the harder you scrub, the rougher the surface gets, and the rougher it gets, the faster the stain comes comes back, and the deeper it sits the next time. You think you are cleaning, you are digging the foundation for the next stain. That is why it always seems to come back worse. It is coming back worse. So the cure was never a stronger arm, and it was never a stronger bottle. The cure is the right thing dissolved in a little water, something that takes that thin shell of stone and quietly turns it into something soft, something loose, something the water can simply carry away down the drain. No grinding, no gouging, no kneeling on a hard floor with your shoulder on fire. You pour it in, you walk away, and the stone lets go all on its own while you are off doing something better with your morning. Now let me tell you what it is. It is called oxalic acid. And do not let that word acid scare you off, because I'm going to talk to you plainly and fully about how to handle it safely before we are through. The very same as I would tell my own grown child standing in my kitchen, and I will not hide a single thing from you. But first I want to tell you where it comes from, because it is a humble little story, and I have always been fond of it. There is a small weed, wood sorrel, some call it, sour grass, others say, and it grows in the cracks of the walk and along the shady side of a fence row. The kind of plant most folks step right over. The children pick it and chew the sour little leaves. Mine did it. I did it when I was small. That sharp, sour bite in the leaf, that right there is the very thing we are talking about. The old people called the powder salts of sorrel, because that is where it was first drawn out from, a common weed the good Lord grows for free in the cracks of the path that nobody planted and nobody tends. A learned man over in Sweden set the name down on paper a long while back, but understand, he no more invented this than a man invents the apple by writing the word apple in a book. It was already there, in the sorrel, in the rhubarb leaf, in the very spinach growing in your garden. He only noticed it and gave it a name. And I want you to hear this part plainly, because it is the heart of the whole thing. It was never a secret, not ever. It was so ordinary, so common, that nobody thought it worth writing down anywhere, because every grandmother already had it on the shelf and showed her daughters with her own two hands how to use it. And a thing that every grandmother knows needs no book to keep it alive, right up until the day the grandmothers stop teaching it, and then, in one single short generation, a thing that everyone knew for 200 years can vanish out of the world as clean as if it had never been. Nobody burned the knowledge, the teaching just stopped. And a thing that is not taught is a thing that is lost. By my great-grandmother's time, this powder sat in the general store under those plain names, salts of sorrel, wood bleach. The farmers bought it to take the rust off their iron tools. The stonemasons bought it to bring a stained marble step back to white. And the wise housewife, the one with not a penny to throw away on foolishness, kept a twist of it by the wash basin for the rust ring in the sink and the hard water stain in the basin. My mother kept hers in a little tin, and that very same tin is on Esther's pantry shelf right now, today. Let me tell you simply how it does the work, because it is a tidy bit of business. That shell of mineral, the lime, the rust, the dark manganese, it is locked up hard, holding tight to the glaze. The oxalic acid takes hold of it and turns it into a different substance entirely, a loose one, a soft one that no longer clings to anything, that just dissolves into the water so the next flush carries it away. It does not pry the stone off the way a chisel would. It turns the stone into something that is no longer stone at all. The rust does not get scrubbed off. It stops being rust. And here is the part the bottle people would just as soon you never came to learn. The glaze itself, that hard glassy white, the oxalic acid leaves it be. It goes after the mineral, and it lets the porcelain alone. So you finish with a surface as whole and as smooth as the day it was made in the kiln, where the harsh scrubbing powders scratch and pit and leave the glaze rough and hungry for the next stain. This leaves it slick as new, nothing for the next bit of mineral to grab onto. And you mark what that means. The more you tend the bowl this gentle way, the less it stains the next time around. You are leaving it better than you found it, every single time. Now, my mother did not raise me to oversell, and a claim that breaks apart under your own two eyes only makes a liar out of the one who made it. So I am going to tell you the truth, both halves of it. The good half is this. This powder will take out years of stain in half an hour. Years of it. That brown ring you have stared at since the day you carried your boxes through the door, gone in one treatment. Or two for a real stubborn one. You will watch it happen with your own eyes and you will hardly believe what you are seeing. But the plain half, the honest half, is this. Will the stain stay gone forever, all on its own, with nothing further ever asked of you again? No. And do not trust anybody who stands there and tells you that it will. Because that stain came out of your water, out of the iron and the lime your water carries into that bowl every single day. And as long as that water keeps running, it will, slow and patient, begin to leave a little of itself behind again. That is not the powder failing you. That is just water being water, and there is no powder on this green earth that changes what water is. But here is the whole difference, and this is everything, so listen close. With the bottles under your sink, you are fighting a hard, built-up stain every single week, forever, and losing ground the whole time, because you are scratching the glaze rougher with every pass. With this powder, you clear it down to bare, clean porcelain one time. And then a small, easy treatment just twice a year, spring and fall, keeps it from ever building up into a stain at all. Twice a year, half an hour each time, $2 of powder to carry you through the whole year and then some. That is not forever and free and never think of it again, because nothing in this life is. But it is about as near to it as an honest man can rightly promise you, and it is a whole different world from a cabinet full of bottles you buy and buy and buy until the day you die. Now I will tell you something Esther watched happen with her own eyes, so you do not take this for just old folks being fond of the old ways. There was a young English wife down the road who had bought her first house, a tired old place near 80 years old, hard water and an iron well sunk deep. The toilet in her hallway had a brown ring so deep set into it that she had simply given up. She kept the lid down and the door shut when folks came by. She told Esther she had spent more than she wanted to say out loud on bottles and tablets and the special brush over 2 whole years, and not one bit of it had moved that ring so much as a shade. So Esther mixed her a cup of the powder in some warm water, standing right there at her own kitchen counter. They let the water down in the bowl and poured it in. And then Esther made her do the part that is hardest of all for an English person. They sat down at the table and drank a cup of coffee and did nothing. Nothing at all for 1/2 of an hour. The woman kept popping up to go and look, and Esther kept telling her to sit back down and let it be. When they finally flushed it through, that ring was gone. 80 years of that house, 2 years of her fighting it on her knees, and it was gone, and not one bristle of a brush had touched it. She got a little teary, truth be told, and then she got cross, which we understood completely, because the very next thing out of her mouth was, "Why did nobody ever tell me this?" And that right there is exactly the right question to be asking. So let me tell you who profits when nobody tells you. And I will tell you fair, because I do not hold with crying conspiracy at every turn. No man in a back room ever banned this powder. It is sold right out in the open this very day. What happened to it is worse than a conspiracy in its own quiet way. Worse because it needed no one at all to plan it. Think it through with me, plain. A powder that clears your stain for years, that you buy one time and then forget you own. There is no fortune to be made in that, none at all. But a bottle that works for 3 weeks and then asks to be bought all over again. And again after that, one bottle for the bowl, a different one for the tub, a tablet that drops in the tank, a foam for the rust in the sink. Now that is a river of money, and a river that never once runs dry. And not because it cleans any better, because it cleans briefly. The whole trade is built not around solving your trouble, but around your trouble coming back faithful, on a schedule you could set your calendar by. Nobody had to sit down at a table and decide to bury the old powder. The bright bottles simply had money behind them, and the plain powder had none. Money to buy the shelf at eye level where your hand falls first. Money to buy the advertisement that plays while you eat your supper. Money to buy a little room in your mind, so that when you think the word stain, the very next thing you think of is which bottle. And the plain powder had nobody at all to speak up for it, because no soul ever got rich selling a thing that lasts. So the bottles got louder and louder, and the grandmothers got quieter and quieter, and inside of a generation or two the knowledge slipped right out of the houses where it had lived for 200 years. It was not stolen away in the night. It was simply crowded out, slow and steady, by all the people who stand to profit the day it is finally gone. And I will name you the one honest exception, because a debt of credit ought to be paid where it is owed. There is a cleaner sold in a can, the kind for scouring pots and pans, that prints oxalic acid right there on its own label as the working ingredient. So the thing never fully vanished off the earth. But even there they sell it to you as a special product just for your cookware, and never once do they think to mention that it is the very same cure sitting right there for your toilet bowl, your bathtub, your sink, your grout lines. It was kept small and kept quiet, and sold back to you a spoonful at a time at many times what it is worth. We kept it in our community for the plainest reason there is. We had no bottle to fall back on. And when you cannot just run down to the store and buy the easy thing, you cannot afford to forget the cheap thing that actually works. Now let me give you exactly what to do, plainly and in order, so you can go and do it this very week. Go to a hardware store, or a paint store, or a farm and feed store, and ask them for oxalic acid. And if they give you a blank look, ask instead for wood bleach, or wood brightener, or rust remover crystals. It is the very same white powder under every one of those names. A tub of it will run you somewhere from $2 to $6, and it will last you years. For the toilet bowl, the first thing is to get the water down off the stain, so the powder works straight on it and is not watered down weak. Reach behind the bowl down low and turn that little valve to shut the water off. Then flush the one time, and the bowl will drain down low and not fill back up. Now stir about 2 good spoonfuls of the powder, call it an ounce, into a pint of warm water, in a plastic dish or an old margarine tub you do not mind using for it. Stir it until it is good and dissolved, no grit settled on the bottom. Pour it and brush it right onto the stains. A cheap foam brush does the job fine, or just pour it careful all along the ring. Get it on every bit of the stain all the way around the bowl, and then you walk away. 20 minutes, a half hour. Go hang the wash. Go feed the chickens. Put the kettle on for tea. Do not scrub. I mean that with my whole heart. Do not scrub. The chemistry is doing the work for you, and your scrubbing only undoes the patience of it and scratches the glaze besides. This is the part everybody wants to cheat on, and it is the one part that matters the very most. Then come back, turn that valve on again, and flush it through twice. The stain will be gone. And if it was a real bad one, 20 years bad, then just pour and wait and flush a second time. Even the worst of them gives up by the second round. And the same powder does more than the bowl. For a rust ring in the sink, wet a cloth in that same solution, lay it right over the rust, leave it 20 minutes, and wipe it away. For the scale built up in a bathtub, brush it along the gray line, give it 20 minutes, and rinse, and it wipes off soft where before it would not budge for anything. For grout gone dark with iron, work it down into the line with an old toothbrush, give it 10 minutes and rinse, and the grout comes right back to its own true color. Now let me answer the 3 questions folks always ask. The first is it safe? It is an acid, and I will not pretend to you it is not, but a mild one. So you wear your rubber gloves, because it will sting and dry your skin if you let it. You open a window or run the fan, not because it chokes you the way bleach does, for it does not, but because good moving air is just plain sense anytime you clean. You never, ever mix it with bleach, nor with anything that has got bleach in it, and truly you should never mix any 2 cleaners together at all, the store bottles most of all. And you keep that tin up high, well out of the reach of the little ones, the very same as you keep the lye and the matches up high. It is the same thing that is in a rhubarb leaf in a small amount, but a rhubarb leaf is not for eating either, and a child does not know that, so you must know it for them. Up high, plainly labeled, out of reach. Handle it with that much plain respect, and it is gentler to work with than the very bleach already sitting under your sink. The second question is, will it ruin my porcelain or hurt my pipes? And no. As I told you, the glaze itself is left whole and unharmed. That is the whole beauty of the thing, that it goes after the mineral and lets the porcelain be. And in the small amount that goes down with 2 good flushes of water behind it, it does your plumbing no harm at all. Use it the way I have told you, rinse it well, and all will be just fine. And the third question is the one that always makes me a touch sad. Somebody will tell the fellow who sells the cleaning things what I have told you here, and that man will say to buy the bottle, that the powder is no good, that you ought not listen to some Amish farmer talking about your bathroom. And of course he says that. He has bottles to sell, and not one thing behind his counter earns him a dime if you walk out with a $2 tub of powder that lasts you 3 years. I do not say the man is dishonest. I say he was taught wrong by people who were taught wrong before him, by people who were paid to teach it wrong, and that chain runs back 50 years and longer. You are standing right at the end of that chain, but you do not have to stay standing there. Try the $2 powder one single time on your very worst stain, and let your own 2 eyes tell you who had the right of it. So here is what I would ask of you. Go and try it. Spend the $2. Take the worst stained thing in your whole house, the one you keep the door shut on when company comes, and do with it exactly as I have told you. Pour, and wait, and flush. And then come back and tell me down in the comments what county you live in and how old your house is, because the older the house and the harder the water, the worse the stain tends to be. And I would dearly like to see how it does on the hard cases. And tell me true, even if it should let you down, for I would far rather know the truth than be flattered. I read every one of them. And if it works for you, and I do believe it will, then I would ask you one more thing. Teach it to one young person who does not know it. A daughter, a son, a neighbor just now setting up a first home with a cabinet already filling up with bottles they will never need. Because that is exactly how this knowledge stayed alive for 200 years. Not in any book, but in a kitchen, handed from one pair of hands down to the next. It very nearly died out in your own generation. You can be the one who hands it on, instead of the one it stopped with. Next time, the good Lord willing, I am going to show you what my mother kept out in the summer kitchen to keep the ants and the flies from ever once crossing the door. No spray, no poison, no man coming with a truck and a bill, just one simple thing you very likely have in your cupboard this minute, set in the right place at the right time. Because the people who built this country with their own two hands, who kept their homes clean and sound and sweet with what the good earth gave them for free, they knew things that we are only now just beginning to remember. Mind your gloves, keep the tin up high, and remember, the whitest bowl in the house is almost always the one nobody is buying a bottle for.